that I think you should keep an eye on. Now we've got Scott Bauer. He's the CEO of Prosper Trading Academy, joining us for a look at a couple he's got his eye on. Scott, thanks for joining us. Happy New Year. I see the semiconductors. Thank you, Scott. I see the semiconductors are starting off the new year much like how they closed out 2019 on all-time highs. I saw WDC, I saw Microchip Technology, and KLA-Tencor all, again, continue to remain bid here. What's going on with them?
You know, I think a lot of it is the positivity that we've seen coming from the U.S.-China tariff talks, or at least no negativity. You know, I do think that we may see some profit taking pretty soon, especially ahead of the Jan 15, supposed deadline or timing for signing phase one of the deal. But there's been just a massive amount of call buying. Even if you go back to Tuesday, last day of the year, there was just a massive amount of call buying. And, we're seeing the continuation today, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, we've got WDC up here right now up to 65.98, Scott. Let's move on here, though, because we also have, I noticed KLA-Tencor also enjoying a bid. KLA, again, also well bid here today. Ticker symbol, again, hold off here in terms of showing this one. But talk to us, Scott, because the semiconductor index in general, I mean, if I pulled up a look at the SOX here, well bid today, talking a gap up over 1 3/4%. We're talking new all-time highs here, 1882.90 at the top of the show. I took a look at the NASDAQ. Tech's hot to say the least.
So if you look at KLA-Tencor, WDC, AMD, Micron, if you look how they've done since June over the past 6 months, all of them have almost doubled. They're up about 85-90%. Microchip lagging a little bit from that space, but the other four have almost doubled. It has just been explosive, and that coincides right with that chart we were just looking at right there. And you know what? There's not a lot to look at this space right now, other than someone really saying, people have to start taking some chips, no pun intended, off the table here to really stand in the way. If we're really progressing with the China trade talks, and if we're really starting to get some positive activity from economic numbers coming out of China as well, this space should continue to do really well.
All right, ultimately, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, they're going to have to back this up with some real data here, not only economic data to keep the optimism going here in terms of the well-being and the health of the economy, but also these numbers. I mean, this is going to be tough for them to sustain. They're going to need to show the sales, the actual data, the revenue to back this up. I mean, again, we can only go so high for so long without something behind it, correct?
No doubt about it. And, the whole bevy of earnings is going to start in the next few weeks. And, by the end of this month or so, we'll start to get most of these companies' results out. And, yeah, the benchmark now is going to be really high. It's almost going to be a flip-flop from where it was in Q3, Q4 when we saw those earnings where, we had some reduced guidance and some concern. Yeah, these companies are going to have to hit their marks.
Yeah, phase one trade deal expected to be signed January 15th. One thing I'd been concerned about was the buy rumor, sell fact associated with U.S.-China trade, but that is yet to develop, that's for sure. It continues higher. Let's talk about a stock that's been struggling a little bit because the focus on Boeing continues into the new year. Scott, I saw ticker symbol BA up today, up on the day right now by about 2%. It looks like they're trying to find a bottom around 320. What are you seeing?
Exactly the same. And in fact, earlier in this week, Monday and Tuesday, we actually initiated some upside call spreads right around that area, Ben, that 322 area or so, which has been some massive support. Now, you look technically at the chart here, and it doesn't really say that it's due for a breakout at all. But technically, I can see the stock rallying to 340 over the next couple weeks, at which point I think that, unless there's some news coming out about the 737 MAX, they start going in production again, that's probably a place where you start taking some profits.
Yeah, Scott, I look at this stock, and after all the woes and all the uncertainty and concerns associated with it, actually, I've got a bigger picture look here on a weekly time frame going back to 2018. I mean, it looks to me like they've been stuck between 446 and that 300 level, but it does look like you can see on this stock how they have been in trying to find a bottom here around 325. Would it concern you to see a breach of the lows that were established throughout the spring and summer of last year?
That would, because then I think you see sub 300.
Okay.
But, if I'm looking more as an investment and not a trade, this is absolutely a stock I want to be in. I want to close my eyes, and I want to, just look at it again in June or September later this year.
Stock has been holding above those December lows that we saw when all of the stocks took a hit. If you remember, into the end of 2018, the beginning of 2019, they rallied off that 295 level. So below that 325 area, that's the level we'll keep an eye on, Scott, should we get back down below there. Scott, can we just talk a little bit about your outlook for the year in terms of the bid that we've been seeing? Because, again, this market cannot continue this levitation act without some sort of really well-defined data. I'd imagine the next piece of real focused on data is going to be wages associated with the jobs data next Friday.
I think it's wages, Ben, and then I think people are actually looking beyond that to the first set of earnings that are coming out, which we're going to start earnest over the next couple of weeks. And yeah, exactly. And much like I was talking about with the semis, where for the last couple quarters we've had, lowered expectations, lowered guidance.
Yeah.
There's going to be some pretty lofty expectations.
Yeah.
So I'd be a little concerned going into earnings season. Not concerned to the point where I'd say short the market or anything, but concerned to the point of hedging any positions that you may have. Especially you get a day like today where you see volatility in the VIX actually dropping sub 13 today. You know what? You got to take advantage of times like that. Take advantage of this run up in the market, but also buy that insurance when it's getting cheaper.
And it is cheap right now. Good point, Scott. We're glad you brought that to our viewers' attention, and we're glad you participated here on Midday Movers with us to start the year off. Who else would we invite other than Scott Bauer, again, the CEO of Prosper Trading Academy, joining us and getting the year started off right here. Traders, we're going to take a quick break. Coming up, my chart of the day, we've got Apple to new highs. Stay right here on the TD Ameritrade